The creative process for this record has been a lot different than previous records in the past. I mean, our other releases have been, 4 people in a room, creating collectively, all together in the same moment, which definitely has its benefits. I mean, there's something to be said for, feeling things out in the moment, but sometimes that process can be limiting. I would say that we did the majority of the writing for this record in the box, so to speak. A lot of it was on a computer, late at night, trying to, come up with ideas and, structure the things that are, that were buzzing around.
Our bassist Drew comes from a background of, programming drums and getting ideas down.
The initial goal, I think, with the software drums was just to kind of hear what we had demoed in a full band setting. We kind of got inspired by hearing the songs in a recorded environment, and that feeling was enough to kind of keep us going, working in that way.
I think it was also productive because we were able to spend more time fine-tuning certain ideas and really deciding really being able to hear each element in and where it fell with everything else at an early stage versus, writing in a room, only having that, getting to the studio and then laying it down and being like, wait a second, does that work? Does that not work?
We're deciding on different studios to go to record this record. Ultimately, we did a couple phone calls with Mike from Vudu and just felt really comfortable about it. There's a reason why a lot of bands have come up here. The live room for tracking drums is, one of the best. So it just seemed like it was going to be a good fit for us.
These collections of songs definitely go into a different direction than, anything else that's been recorded before. And just based off of the feel and the amount of production that we were looking to put into this record, Vudu Studios was a great call for that.
Having, programmed drums on everything as demos was helpful for us, but as far as bringing them to life, it required an actual drummer to kind of take those songs and reinterpret them. When
we were looking for a drummer to play on the record, we had our buddy Dylan, who went on our last European tour with us, and we got to know him really well. We got used to the way that he plays, his fills, his ideas.
After playing with him, it was pretty clear that he needed to be the one on this record.
The few weeks that I did in Europe, it gave me an opportunity to get a better feel for how everybody plays as a musician individually, and that gave me a stronger connection with the band as a whole. It made me understand the best ways to play off of each individual member's style or technique. I had them send me tracks without any drum parts, with a click underneath it, and then tracks just by themselves, just guitar and bass tracks. So I was able to get a feel for all of the parts that they had with their drum parts. So I knew what they wanted each individual piece to feel like, and then I kind of rethought how a drummer would write those parts rather than somebody with a keyboard and a MIDI controller or whatever.
Originally, I was contacted from Greg, and I had already heard of the band from a few other bands that I had worked with, so I was intrigued and flattered that they had reached out to me to possibly work with them. And we had discussed direction, timeline, length of songs, and you know, how much time they figured they would need and how much time I thought they would need. And you know, we continued to converse and making sure that we were all on the same page musically and sonically, and had the same direction in mind. This was somewhat different because the band had a very good predetermined notion of how they wanted things to sound.
His process made sense to us. We felt that you know, the way that he tackled projects and just his process just would align with what we were trying to achieve.
Getting into a studio environment with people who have never heard the songs before naturally kind of, I think, allowed the songs to, you know, have a new life to them that wasn't as sterile.
They also did an extensive amount of pre-production, which in this particular instance helped because I don't feel the band had too much demo-itis. I don't think they did. I think they were able to take in what we felt may be better for songs. They had their demos and they really liked what they had, but they were willing to listen and willing to change if they thought something would be better.
Them having done pre-production was really nice for me to be able to see the parts fully formed in the context of the song, and to be able to commit to sounds and tones rather than having to guess on what a part is supposed to be. And it was just easy to get all the parts we need and move on.
This particular instance of going through songs and sonic choices, I think collectively, like I normally do with the band, we'll decide together what we feel is the best sound and what's the best snare choice or bass sound. And
We switched snares a couple of times for different songs, just because different songs needed a little bit of a fatter tone or more of a dry, woody sound coming out of the snare. And
whatever seemed to fit the song is the one that we went with. In the very beginning, when we were discussing guitar sounds, we ran through every single amp.
One of the reasons why we chose to go to Vudu Studios, where we ended up recording the record, was just based off of the amount of gear that Mike offered for us and had at the studio.
We just had a lot of different options for any type of tone that we were looking for, and that's just been again a luxury and a really great experience to be able to really make the parts come to life.
The bass sound, because we wanted to have some cleans and growls, we printed as much as we could. So again, with the map of the band in mind, it makes it easy for me to mix.
Yeah.
I obviously knew as soon as I heard what you were playing, like, nope,
Okay.
cleaner spot.
Yeah, pull it back. Yeah.
Nope, gassy spot. It's so easy.
Yeah, that's cool. It's a good way to do it.
The reason is because if we do all the heavy stuff and then we dial a completely different tone, they may not mesh together.
Yep.
This, you know,
Yeah.
will sound great because it's already a derivative of what we have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Working with Kevin and his engineering style was something that was a lot different than any process that I had ever personally worked with in the past. You know, in previous situations, especially when we recorded binary, it was all reel-to-reel tape, so it was all, you know, live for 12 minutes each. You know, get it right one shot sort of thing. His process was get a few takes of us passing through the parts and then kind of almost stitch them together from the best parts of each of those takes.
Shiloh is, you know, they're all really musically talented, so it's much easier to get takes and comp stuff and commit to things rather than needing to do extra takes and save stuff for later.
I never really have had the luxury of being able to modify things as I'm going along. Sometimes you just gotta fucking sit down and get it done. Giving myself one to 4 takes of each song and being able to play things a little bit differently and picking the best of each was super helpful.
And working with Mike and Kevin, we were able to really, in the moment, you know, really analyze, like, what is this particular guitar line supposed to be doing in conjunction with everything else? How does this particular sound fit with everything that's going on, and really fine-tune it, which was, you know, time-consuming, but worth it. And I mean, I think every part is stronger because of the time that we were able to take with it.
Let's hear that. It's pretty authentic sound. How about it?
This record in particular, especially with the amount of musical ground that it's covered, it's pulling from a lot of different, I would say, eras of the band. We're pulling from older ideas, but at the same time, there's a lot of really fresh new ideas that I think a lot of that has to do with having Drew and Dylan in the mix.
Because I come from a similar musical background, and I had jammed with Zach and Greg before, briefly, before joining the band. It kind of gave me an opportunity to, you know where they were coming from musically and sort of like cater my writing style a little bit to something that might have, you know, fit in with the general mold of what they've been trying to do.
You know, some of the songs on this record were songs that I already knew how to play, that I had already learned. Getting to talk through the process of writing those songs gave me a better window into how these songs were constructed. And it definitely increased my ability to connect on a musical level.
Having a fair amount of time between the last release that they had put out allowed us to sort of like experiment with ideas to see which direction we could push things. And it really allowed us some time to kind of sit with the material we were creating.
There's a lot more bite to the songs on this record, I think. It's got more drive behind it. There's just a lot more to pay attention to. It's less about like the space or the airiness that a lot of their songs or records in the past have provided.
This record is sort of a representation of us working the hardest we can to put out the music that we've wanted to for some time.
We spent a lot of time perfecting the songs and just trying to sprinkle in all of our ideas as the band members that we are into each song and each riff, each drum beat.
You know, there's a lot of different things that we tried to encompass with this record that may not have necessarily been the case with other releases.
I think that was kind of the vibe, you know, just make it gnarly.
And they've covered everything, I think. There's something in it for everybody to like, for sure.